So we got a Jeep Wrangler in for a death wobble issue. Usually people seem to think that it's the shock absorber here. It's usually not the case. Usually tie rods, track bars are loose, so you would check them for play. In this case, we have a loose upper ball joint. This is actually pretty bad. You can see that little bit of play there. We'll run over to the other side. Oh yeah. You can probably hear that, but that's gonna be our source for the death wobble. I've seen track bars come loose here. You know, just look for play anywhere. Let's replace the ball joints. First, we'll start by removing the brake caliper and do the ABS wire a little. Then we can get access to the upper caliper bolt. So if you're a Jeep owner and you wheel hard, you probably already know the procedure. So this video is more for guys that are just getting into this new hobby. With the caliper bolts removed, not the sliding pins, the caliper bolts, the whole caliper assembly will come off. We'll set this aside, just don't let it hang. We'll set it somewhere where it won't fall. Got the manager telling us to go back to work. Johnny's also making a video on a time. But anyways, we have to get this rotor off of here. All right, that comes right off. I will disconnect the steering bar here and the tie rod, so the knuckle is free. So you just have to whack the knuckle a few times with the hammer, just around this area to drop the tie rod. If it's really stuck, you can use the proper tool that wedges between the tie rod and kind of forces the tie rod down like that. But this works pretty smooth, so give it a shot. So now the whole knuckle is almost free. I'm gonna disconnect the ABS wheel speed sensor so it doesn't get snagged when I pull the knuckle off, and then I'll be zipping out the axle nut here. So we'll grab a 35mm socket here to break the axle nut loose. This is a two-handed job, clearly. I'm gonna remove the ABS sensor from the hub because I have to pull the wheel bearing in order to get the axle shaft out so I can drop the knuckle. So for you folks in the Rust Belt, you may not be as lucky as I am, and you might have to disconnect it from up here, which for me is a pain in the ass because this car has a snorkel, so it's a really hard reach to undo this wire. So I'm gonna try to undo it from here. Once that bolt is backed out, we can gently, very gently, try to wiggle the sensor out, which it's already moving. If you're in the Rust Belt, it's probably not even worth attempting this because usually they just snap. but I'll just go at it a little more until it comes out. So the sensor's out, nothing's broken. I'm just gonna loosen the 3 hub assembly bolts. You can get at them with a 12-point socket from the back of the knuckle. And then once that's free, I should have enough room to wiggle the sensor out through the backing plate here. Get a 12-point 13 mil socket. And we'll crack these loose. Check the hub for any weird noises or play or grinding. If it feels all right, it's good to reuse. It's a good idea to inspect your U-joints because these tend to go bad or they just explode on the trail. So no binding, everything's smooth. We'll reuse these as well. What we have left is the ball joints. So we'll undo this, and then we'll just hammer on the knuckle a little, and then the whole knuckle should drop, giving us room to press out these ball joints. Don't do what I did there. Just remember to leave one of these nuts on before you start hammering that knuckle. I'll remember that for the other side. Anyways, this fixed ball joint, look at how much play it has. So that is definitely enough play to cause death wobble. The lowers is actually really loose as well. And yep, there is some up and down movement, so this ball joint's completely toast. So what happens is dirt, water, sand, everything kind of goes past the boot and starts wearing into the ball and cup inside there. And then once it wears it through enough, the ball joint's loose. You got a bunch of clunking off-road, or you get death wobble at a certain speed. But let's get these changed out. So now that we got the ball joint tool set up, you want to push downwards. So the lower ball joint gets pushed out down, the upper has to get pressed up. So make sure you have your cup set up so it will have enough room in here to clear the stud, and just enough room here to actually push the ball joint down into the axle. So you won't be able to see the ball joint moving, but it'll slide down here. Ball joints are out, and reassembly is just the reverse procedure. Okay, now it's time to reassemble everything, and we got to torque these to spec. Let's do that. Okay, everything is torqued, cotter pins in. I like to use some torque seal and just mark this so if it backs off, it's easy to tell because this is like a wax compound and it'll clearly show a crack in the paint if the nut were to back loose. One thing to note is that this bracket actually goes between the knuckle and the upper ball joint nut. I actually had to remove this nut to put the bracket back on, so don't forget that. Upper and lower ball joints are torqued to 70 foot-pounds. Wheel bearing bolts are torqued to 75 foot-pounds. I just torqued the ABS bolt to 8. Don't forget the backing plate when you put the hub on, because that tends to happen. I'll throw the hub nut on last because I'll be able to jam a punch into the rotor and caliper to stop the assembly from spinning. So let's throw these on and torque them. Okay, to torque the hub nut, I just jammed a 3/8 extension into the rotor and it's jamming against the brake caliper. So we torqued these to 100 foot-pounds.
First, you torque the bolt.
Give it a quick
Dab.
Tie rods I tightened to 63 foot-pounds, and then the brake caliper mounting bolts 100 foot-pounds. And that's it for the ball joint. That's all you gotta do. Throw the wheel on, torque it to 95, and the job's done.